Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and for your time. Um, we'll wait as a few more people pop in. I hope you've got lovely lunch. I've eaten mine, so we're ready on this side. Today we're going to be going through AI in the workplace. So we have more and more of these tools emerging, and one of the regular conversations we're having in our business is around the shadow IT. How are we actually securely engaging with these tools? What can we be doing? So we thought it would be a great topic to share with you all. We had a biggest uptake in lunch and learns we've ever had to this topic, so we can tell it's on a lot of your minds. So thank you for making the time. As always, we'll always send round the recording after the session. So if it's helpful for anyone else in your organisation, please feel free to share. And we have the question and answer section open. Any questions along the way, pop them in. We've left some time at the end just to go through your questions. So hopefully that helps. And without further ado, over to you, Liam, to take it away.
Thanks very much, Anna, and hello, lovely peoples. So as Anna mentioned, today we're focusing on AI and the shadows, so specifically shadow IT, and as it relates to AI. So we'll be focused on what is shadow IT, what can organizations do about it, and then have a quick squiz at Copilot chat, which some of you will already be using or will have questions about. And I'm looking forward to what Jamie has to say about that one. So what is shadow IT? It is any IT system that's in use but not authorized by the organization and in some way connected to the organization's data systems or whatever. It could be a software, it could be a service, it could be a device. And there are some key considerations or some reasons why you want to be thinking about this or paying attention to this particular area within your environment. There is security as a consideration. The biggest concern is unauthorized applications may lack the robust security features that lead to potential data breaches or vulnerabilities or compromises within your environment. Of course, there's data loss or leakage. People might use a good example. Maybe they've got a personal Dropbox account and they use that to share files with someone because it's easier than using the SharePoint share link, or they're not allowed to share something out of SharePoint, so they copy it into Dropbox and share it that way. And then, of course, that file is now in Dropbox. Compliance issues. Shadow IT can often lead to violations of industry regulations or your own information systems standards and management protocols and so on. And again, in this space, you as as IT professionals or as IT people who are responsible, you can't monitor or update or protect what's happening in the shadow IT because you don't know about it. It's in the shadows. And then, of course, cost and operational inefficiencies or efficiencies. So if you've got two tools that do exactly the same thing, why pay for both? Why have a group of people who know how to use one and a group of people who know how to use another and then find that they can't collaborate? Common example here would be Canva. A lot of people love to use Canva because it's easy to design things in that platform. They're probably putting marketing collateral into there, and then they issue it to the team, and someone in the team says, I just need to update Liam's photo. He looks different than he did 5 years ago when that was taken. But then they can't update it because they don't have an account with Canva. And in fact, no one has an account with Canva because it's that person's personal account. They just like Canva. And then you have these delays that get injected into the process. So a quick example might be not using the ones that I've used, Dropbox, Canva, and so on. A popular example that we're talking about at the moment would be someone attends a meeting and goes, Firefly note taker, that looks awesome. I wish I didn't have to take notes in a meeting, and I'm not allowed to have a Copilot license, so I'm going to sign up for Firefly. And they're an executive, so they've got a company credit card. So they put the company credit card in and they get a Firefly account. And they join it to all of their meetings and they're merrily recording things, but then they don't realize that all of the data in Firefly is stored in America. And that when they cancel their account, their data isn't deleted automatically. They have to make a special request to do that. And that wouldn't be a problem, except that the last meeting that they were in a one-on-one, someone disclosed medical information that is sensitive, and your IT policy requires that you store that information in Australia in a secure manner. And so you could have no idea that this is happening or has happened in your environment, but actually you're unwittingly exposed by someone who's just trying to engage with wonderful new technology and trying to get the benefits. So for your team members, for your managers, for your organization, understanding what shadow IT is and why it's a risk, why it needs to be managed is a really helpful thing and a simple thing. So what can you do about all of that? And you can see how this is going to lend itself pretty naturally to AI. There is a new AI product being launched. I don't know, it feels like every few minutes, but every time I'm checking, there's a wide variety of new tools that are out there, all doing perhaps small variations on existing themes, and people want to get involved. So how do we apply what we know about shadow IT and the risks to trying to work with our teams? This little cycle is a really simple approach, and I'm going to start at govern on the left, even though it is also the last step. If you don't tackle the govern question, it's really hard to effectively tackle discover. So under govern, and it bears mentioning these notes will come out after the presentation today, so you'll get all of these bits and pieces, and I'll pop some notes in the presenter notes as well, so you can feel free to use as much of this information as you're able. You need to have a vision. What's your desired state for that particular area? And it might be in the area of artificial intelligence, or it might be in the area of automation, or it might be in the area of document management. What do you want to happen? And so an example for AI might be, we want to equip all teams to leverage AI to aid them in their work without diminishing their capability for original thought. We want to improve our customer experience through AI tools that enhance the services provided by our teams. You need to look at culture. What strategy are you going to adopt? Will you have a command and control approach? Will you be collaborative? Will you lead by example, etc.? You then need a strategy. So we know what our vision is, and we know how we're going to make decisions about that. How are we going to get from here to there? How are we going to move forward? Which tools are we going to adopt? What training programs are we going to use to support those? Are we going to gamify the results to try and make it exciting? Are we going to use lunch and learns to build culture and engagement among our teams? And then a policy or some number of policies. How are you going to address the regulation or the governance requirements that might exist? How will you address, especially in the case of AI, the ethical concerns? How will you consider where data is stored, how long it's going to be kept for, etc.? So once you know where you're going, how you're going to get there, how you're going to get there, not only how you make the decisions about going there, and what your boundaries are, then you can do that discovery phase and go out and see, well, what are our teams actually using? What's happening in the environment that doesn't line up with or underpin what we're hoping to achieve? And you can see how if you haven't done the govern step, it's really hard to discover because you're just going to find some stuff and you don't necessarily know whether it's good or bad. It's just things. So we have some platforms that we use like Avanan and Defender, which are great for reporting back to you, what are people using in your environment. We had someone ask for a list saying, show us in the last 3 months all of the people who have engaged with ChatGPT. And they were doing it from a proactive approach. We want to know who is motivated to learn and engage in this area, in our environment. Surveys indicate, last year at least, that 50% of people are using generative AI tools every day. In their workplace. And so I would encourage you to invite your teams to talk about it. We participated in a lunch and learn, a forum discussion earlier this year where a group of leaders just got together, shared a meal and talked about what they were doing. What were their concerns? What are the risks that they see? How are they managing it in their teams? It was a fantastic conversation. It was great to hear from people who had just made some positive engagement. It was great for the leaders in that organization as well, to be able to hear that their staff were considering the risks and that they weren't just blindly stepping out. And so that gave them a better mindset as well as to what do we need to approach, where are our gaps. I would encourage you to create a positive environment around discovery. You don't want to have people hiding and shrinking away and thinking they're going to get in trouble, because chances are they're already using these tools. And chances are your data is already in some of these tools if you're responsible for governance. You want to have the best chance you can of finding out that that data is there. So if you need to do a cleanup activity, you can. Whereas if you come out with a big stick and lots of yelling, then you will find that no one was doing it and it was all fine and you'll get exactly what you were looking for. And then plan. So we want to identify, we know where we want to go, and we know now what our reality is. What do we want to do intentionally in this space? How are we going to remediate, bring data back in? How are we going to educate? How are we going to implement new tools? So equip your teams to think about how are they going to solve their problems. You want people bringing their thought and their engagement to AI. AI is not something which is emerging as a top-down engagement. This is people have problems that they see and great ideas about how to solve it. You want to hear the most about those. You want to identify roles that are specific to your culture and strategy that are going to work well in your environment. You would look for AI champions or application champions who then can integrate AI solutions. You want educators and risk managers. We want to create systems to help review the tools and systems that are in place. So you don't want to do the discovery just once. You need to do that discovery again. And then you need to educate new people when they join your organization. And then you need to evaluate whether the AI tools that you were using last year or yesterday are now out of date. And it's time to engage in something else. So some kind of a roadmap detailing what you're going to do and how you're going to evaluate what others are doing for you. Most of the platforms that you're using will either already have AI built in, or if they don't yet, it will be built in the next 12 to 18 months. You don't want to have to go and solve a problem that someone else is about to solve for you. And then, of course, optimize. Few things work very well the first time, so we improve, we iterate. AI is changing at a rate that requires a healthy appetite for learning. You will want to bring people to this who like change, who want to learn and try new things. Do not bring your stalwarts to the table. They have an important role to play, but they probably are going to struggle to foster in this area where there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of change. So people who are going to engage with this positively as well. And then, of course, under optimize, we want to deduplicate, minimize the system overlap as much as possible. Cancel all those subscriptions that people put on company credit cards for. Again, maybe it's Dropbox when you run SharePoint. Maybe it's Firefly when you can use Copilot. Maybe it's Canva when you can use any number of other platforms that are probably already licensed in a Microsoft or a Google suite directly. Okay. I've gone as fast as I can, and I apologize. I know that it was fairly quickly through there. I want to now kick over to Jamie. He's going to talk a little bit about Copilot Chat. I will hand straight over to you, sir, to show us and tell us about the exciting things in Copilot Chat.
Thank you, Liam. So Copilot Chat is one of the very many services offered under the Copilot umbrella. It is one of the few that is just offered freely for anyone with a 365 subscription. So I'll let Copilot here in the slide introduce itself. This is kind of what it is. It's very similar to ChatGPT, which I'm sure some of you have used. You type in little prompts and it gives you a response. Next slide, please. So feel free to follow along at home. There's a pretty good chance that all of you can actually access this yourselves. So to activate Copilot Chat, we just head to office.com, where you'll be prompted to sign in. And from there, we'll want to make sure you're signing in with your work email address. It'll be the same one used to access your Outlook and all that. That means you'll get the enterprise version of Copilot Chat. After you sign in, you'll get a prompt to unlock it. We just click Add Copilot. And then from our 365 homepage, we can go to Apps and Copilot, and then you should all be able to chat away. So I'll hop on over to the next slide. So the important thing about accessing the enterprise version is the data protection it offers over the regular Copilot Chat app. So any data, any chat logs, any history stored within the enterprise version, it's treated the same as emails and files in a company's SharePoint. So they never leave your tenancy. Little asterisk on that is because data in Copilot Chat will leave the tenancy if web searching is enabled. So Copilot Chat can search the web for stuff. In that case, it will send off data to Bing, which is still underneath Microsoft's umbrella, but that does leave the tenancy there. But that is something that can be toggled off organization-wide. So if you have super strict data protection concerns, you can just turn that off and it stays. No matter whether web search is on or not, Data residency is adhered to. So any data that you put into Copilot Chat, it is stored within Australia, it never leaves the country. We'll hop on over to the next slide. And so this is a little example. This is from a chat that I actually had while working on a ticket. So this is real. Pretty much, I just put in the issue very similarly to how I would usually type into Google. I found that's a really good way to use it, is essentially as a replacement for Google. So Copilot Chat just goes and scrapes the first few web results and then generates an answer out of it. And we can see here, this is generally how it will respond to stuff. If you've used ChatGPT before, this will look very, very similar. It's pretty much an ideas generator. It'll give you a whole bunch of things to try. Sometimes dot points, sometimes number lists like here. And we'll notice that there are a number of features. We can see on number 5, there's a couple of footnotes there. And those are all references to the web pages that were actually scraped from in order for ChatGPT to give you its answers. We'll go off to the next slide here. Since this is a pretty new product, there are a few limitations just in what it can do. So I think the number one I would say is actually the inputs. This is the second point on the slide, but it can currently only read text. You can upload files, but it does have to be text files. It can't read images at the moment. Another big thing is the customization. So it's very much like ChatGPT, where it's a generic, it's made for everyone. Whether you're a construction company or a law firm, it'll give you the same answers. You can kind of direct it to answer in certain ways just by typing into it. You can give it some little instructions, and I found that that's pretty good. But yeah, the base model itself is just the same across everybody. The model itself has a knowledge cutoff of October 2023. So I've also found that sometimes it can give outdated information. One way it combats that is by scraping the web. So it can get updated information by looking at web results. And also the footnotes at the bottom, it gives you, if it's giving you incorrect information, you can just click on those. It'll take you to the website. You can read up yourself. And that'll end that one.
There's a few questions that came through, Jamie, while you were doing your great
yes.
talk about it. Liam, you've answered them in the chat, but did you want to expand on any of these just while we're talking about Copilot Chat around, is the enterprise Copilot Chat used to train other LLMs?
That is a really good concern. It is not. So in Microsoft's privacy policy, they state the enterprise version specifically is not used to train anything. Their non-enterprise version is. So if actually we can hop back a couple slides to the one with the green tick, the data protection one. So it's important to look for this green tick here. It'll be in the top right of your chats. So if you are signed in with your enterprise organization account, this should happen automatically. But if this green tick here then yeah, no training on your data.
Fantastic. And can you toggle the ability for it to search the internet on and off easily, or is that a setting that you need to go into? How does that work?
Yep. So I'm not sure about if a user can do it individually, turning it on and off, but I know that you can turn it on or off organization-wide, so the admin can go in and just disable that feature.
Fantastic. And one more question. I won't go to the standards question because that's a pretty clear answer. Thank you, Liam. Do we need to prepare our O365 tenancy in regards to permissions and searching the same as Copilot 365?
Okay, so I'd say that's a lot more to do with Copilot agents. So I guess the answer for Copilot agents would be yes, but that is a separate product.
A whole nother lunch and learn, that one.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that in another lunch and learn. But in terms of just Copilot Chat, no, you won't need to change any permissions or anything.
Fantastic. I have a question, which isn't in the chat, around costs. So I know that a lot of people will have invested in Copilot licenses thinking, wow, this must cost a lot to have this feature. Is it free, or is there a cost associated with users being able to use this version?
Yes, so Copilot Chat is it is free in that it is part of your Microsoft 365 subscription. So, you know, if you have, or everyone should have a Microsoft 365 subscription here, then it is part of that. Not exactly free. Microsoft raised the cost of the subscription, I think, by about $20, but they inserted this product into it. So, you know, that's up to your own interpretation.
Yes, definitely. I can see that. Awesome. I will move on for the sake of time. We'll come back to questions. I can see, Kate, your question's been answered by a few different people in the chat. So thanks, Jamie, for answering those questions. And back to you, Liam.
Cool. Thank you. Couple of things that I just want to share, because AI is moving quite quickly at the moment, and there's a lot emerging as part of the notes that we'll share today. Then there's a couple of links in here which may be helpful. So there's a PricewaterhouseCoopers 2025 AI business predictions. There's some great reflections on the state of AI development as it touches down in Australia. It's a good motivation for what may be possible in your organization, or if you're advising others, then what you might want to be talking to them about. There's some real-world generative AI use cases from the world's leading organizations, which is the Google Cloud blog there as well. Basically, that's just a lot of inspiration, great ideas, lots of repetition in there, people doing the same thing. Many of the ideas in there as well are for enterprise budgets, so we'll see that come down, but initially it might be more of a mood board than a strategy roadmap. 10 best practices to accelerate your employees' AI skills. So this is a Microsoft-generated PDF. Microsoft is unsurprisingly pumping out the content here, and this guide is actually one that I found really useful. So it's broken down by team, so sales and marketing or finance or technical teams, and then provides different advice for how will you engage that team, how do you train them, how do you work with them, how do you inspire them, how do you learn from them. It was a really interesting guide, and I'd recommend it for anyone who's going to be put in charge of developing an AI strategy for an organization or a rollout strategy. The AI strategy roadmap ebook is a big one. Anyone who's got responsibilities around governance frameworks, there is plenty of tips in here for engaging the different levels of the team. It's a pretty stiff read though, so you might want to break it down in chunks, unless you love that stuff, in which case, you know, look forward to the email that comes out and get straight into reading it this weekend. The last thing on this slide is a fairly epic AI prompt. So you will all have heard about, at some point along the way, this concept of prompt engineering, the ability to ask the chat thing the question to get the kind of answer that you're looking for. And so what this prompt does is it tells the chat interface, I'm about to ask you a question, but I want you to think about it in this kind of a way and ask me for the right information if I don't give it to you. And then the prompt it gives back is the prompt that you then paste into the next chat window to get your answer. So it's kind of a help me, help you, help me circle. It's actually pretty cool, and it is worth, if you find yourself doing big slabs of work, this is a good approach. It's not going to help you ask for a better sentence if you're just giving it a specific small question. It's pretty open-ended. It is also really good from an education perspective, because you will see in that prompt it talks about the craft format for providing a really good question into a prompt. And so even just by seeing how a clever prompt is engineered, you get that benefit of going, oh, okay, so I need to include a bit more about the context or the role that I am taking in this process, or who my audience is and how I want it to write in my response. So those are all really helpful considerations and worth having a look at there as well. I'm going to tackle Ryan's question because I can see it and I'm the one talking. If you have a Microsoft 365 license, Copilot Chat is free to you. There is no additional cost. It's not charged to your tenancy. It is not charged as part of your Azure subscription or anything else. Copilot Chat is free. Microsoft is basically gambling on their ability to drown their competition, and the way they do that is by getting uptake. And so they are giving away Copilot Chat. There is then, Jamie mentioned earlier, a thing called an agent. Agents are not free. If you've got a Copilot license, then you can use an agent for free. If you've got a Copilot license, you can use a number of the AI features for free. Microsoft have also just announced a pay-as-you-go model where you can pay some number of cents per question. But again, none of those apply to the Copilot Chat, which is the one that you will find the instructions for in this slide deck, and the one that Jamie talked about today. It is 100% free and 100% locked to your Microsoft tenancy. So if you want to give your teams a safe place to start exploring what it might be like to use a chat model, to improve their written format, to generate ideas, to create training collateral, to do whatever, then it is a really good, it's good from a budget and it's good from a security first step. Anna, were there any other questions at all?
Yes, one from me again. I love these lunch and learns. I learn as much as everybody else on the chat. So I would be thinking, what is the difference then? What is an agent versus the chat functionality, and when should I be considering an agent or a paid version?
Jamie, do you want to talk about agents versus chat?
Sure, yeah. So agents are much more specialized, whereas the chat is very, very general. So again, chat would be more like a Google search, whereas your agent is kind of like a little PA, but they can typically only do one thing. So when I was playing around with it, I set up a SharePoint agent. So pretty much I could just ask it to go into our SharePoint, hey, I'm looking for files on XYZ. And it will be able to give me information on those files it finds. It was actually pretty impressive.
I have heard an extreme example of the use of agents from mid last year. Because we're not aligned to anything, I'm going to just leave out brands completely. A large car manufacturer created 8 agents trained in their specialized fields. So fuel management, engine design, marketing, historical input from what that car manufacturer had done before, and so on. They put all of those agents in a Teams chat room, and any staff member could freely jump into that room and ask the room questions about something that they were working on, and they would get the input from all of these agents on that conversation. They have done an amazing study around time saved and improvement in quality and design. Now I can guarantee that that was an enterprise budget sitting behind that, but you can hopefully just see from that example of how agents, as Jamie was saying, they are a little bit specialized, but you can work them together. They can follow a string of processes and workflows, and they can engage with your teams. And it may even be that they can, you may not be using an agent, but it might be saving you time because questions may not be coming to you. So there's quite a few things to be considered around these specialized, even if it only does one thing, agents.
Fantastic. One last question to squeeze in there. I know we like to finish and start on time because it is such a tight window. But Liam, do you want to take a stab at that question? Yeah.
Yep. So the question is around privacy risk and data management and so on. So first thing I'll call out, Copilot Chat does not access your tenancy or anyone else's data. It is only going to remember, it's only going to have access to that language model, which is the same for everyone, and information that you give it in your chat session. An agent will have access to the data that you give the agent. So if you say to an agent, you've got access to our entire SharePoint environment or our entire HR platform, and then a pleb Liam comes along, it's my second day, and I ask how much the boss has paid. If the agent has access, the agent can answer the question. So those thoughts and considerations absolutely need to go into design for an agent. That's a little bit different, again, to a Copilot license, which is kind of in a separate, the third category along. If you give someone a Copilot license, that Copilot conversation, it could go and search SharePoint on my behalf, but it would only see what I can see. And so Copilot respects the privacy limitations of the person who is licensed. So should you be considering data structure and security and information rights management and document labels? Absolutely. Is that a concern for Copilot Chat? No, not at this stage.
That's so good. Thank you, Liam. Look, that brings us pretty much to the end of our time together. Thank you everyone for coming. We love it when we're able to help and talk about the things that we love, the things that we're learning as well. So I'm sensing there's a lot of questions around potentially doing a lunch and learn on agents. Maybe that's a great topic for next time. Give us your feedback. We'd love to hear it. Also, a big shout out to Jamie and Liam. Thank you for taking the time to pull together the content. Thank you all for turning up, and we look forward to sharing the next one with you shortly. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.